Hey guys, we're back with another Pokemon Nuzlocke for you guys. In this video, we're going to be playing Pokemon Sun, electric types only. And if you don't know the rules to Nuzlocke, I'm going to be putting them on the screen right now. And I'm not going to make you guys wait, so without further ado, here's my attempt at a Pokemon Sun hardcore Nuzlocke with electric types only. First off, I want to start this video by actually talking about electric types. Pokemon Sun has 9 electric types that I can get in this game, and most of them are really good, and they all could help me out a lot during this run. Sadly for me, most of these Pokemon are extremely frail, so if I don't have a good game plan for pretty much every single route, I could lose right then and there. Since this run is extremely difficult, I've decided to give myself access to Z moves, but to balance it out, I can only use 2 Z moves throughout the entirety of this run. This means that if I use a Z move once, then I will only have 1 remaining throughout the rest of the game. I am 100% convinced that this Pokemon Nuzlocke will be my hardest yet, especially looking at the totems and just regular grand trials in this game. My main worry for this run is definitely the ground type grand trial, but before we get there we actually have to start the game. So I name myself Zango and walk outside into the Alola region. I talk to the professor and go through way too many tedious cutscenes, and I finally get my starter Pokemon. For this run, I'm going to be choosing Litten, mainly because it gives us a harder rival battle in the future of this run. After we get him though, we're basically done with him, as right after we can get our real first Pokemon in this run, Pichu. My Pichu has a mild nature, and that's a little bit weird, especially considering that his defense is already bad enough. Still, this should help a lot, especially considering that special attack is his best attack stat. I catch him and name him Zeus, and after I level him up a little bit, I fight my rival. This battle actually could have been really hard, but thankfully it didn't end up being, as I paralyzed his Rowlet right in the beginning of the battle. After doing a little bit more story, I make my way to the trainer school where I can actually catch my next Pokemon, Magnemite. Magnemite is one of the few Pokemon in this run that doesn't have extremely low special defense or defense. I catch him and name him Tesla, and then I find out he has a bashful nature. This isn't good or bad, so after this I just decide to fight the rest of the trainer school. I leave the trainer school and make my way to the next real challenge of this run with Captain Lima. He leads the battle with Yungoos as I lead with Tesla. Immediately I decide to go for a Supersonic as he goes for a Leer. On the next turn he decides to use a full heal for the confusion, and I go for a Thunder Shock. That did pretty moderate damage, so I decide to go for another one as he goes for a Pursuit. I then go for one more Thunder Shock, bringing him into the red as he goes for a Leer. Since I know he's going to heal in the next turn, I decide to just switch into Zeus. He does go for a heal, but Thunder Shock does a lot less than expected as he gets 2 Leers off before he goes down to a few Thunder Shocks. Next up is Smeargle, who I confuse with a Sweet Kiss as he hits me extremely hard with a Tackle. Now at this point it's just a luck game, as my defense is down too low for me to really do anything, and he knows Ember so he can just one-shot Magnemite. I go for 2 Thunder Shocks as he hits himself twice in confusion, winning me my battle against Captain Lima. After this battle, I move up to Route 2 and deal with Team Skull. Once they've been swiftly dealt with, I decide to start my first trial. I had one close call by battling Gumshoos in the cave, but other than that, the battles went pretty smooth, and I went on to battle Totem Gumshoos. I decide to lead with Zeus and immediately go for a Sweet Kiss. He hits me with a Scary Face, lowering my speed, and on the next turn he calls his ally Pokemon and hits me with a Bite as his ally hits me with a Leer. On the same turn, I'm able to one-shot his ally with a single Brick Break. Gumshoos then snaps out of confusion and goes for a Leer, so now I know I'm one-shot to any move he really throws at me. I hit him with a Brick Break, not nearly doing enough damage, as I'm forced to switch on the next turn into Tesla. He hits me with a Bite on the switch in, as on the next turn I go for a Supersonic and he hits me with a Bite once again. I'm now down to 11 HP and I'm scared of a crit, so I decide to switch back into Zeus as he hits himself with confusion on the switch in. I then finish him off with a Brick Break and an Electro Ball, winning me my first Totem battle. After that Totem battle, I'm able to catch my next Pokemon in Melee Meadow. This Pokemon ends up being Oricorio, and she should be really useful in this run. Her and Vikavolt are the only 2 Pokemon on my team not severely weak to ground type moves, and they don't even get hit by them. Regardless, I catch her and name her Synergy as I find out she has a bashful nature, which is not good or bad. I then have to go get Cosmo because Lily can't do her job, and after that, I make my way to fight my rival. I beat him in a battle pretty quickly, and after that, I head to fight the Grand Trial in Melee Island. Hala leads the battle with Mankey as I lead with Synergy. I decide to set up 2 workups as I get hit for minimal damage, and I one-shot him with an air cutter. He then sends out Makahita next, who hits me really hard with Fake Out, bringing me to 16 HP. I hit him with an air cutter, bringing him to 1 HP as he hits me with an arm thrust, not doing much damage. He heals as I finish him off with 2 air cutters, leading into his final Pokemon, Crabrawler. Since I'm faster than him, I just get off a single air cutter, winning me my first Grand Trial of this run. Once that's all finished up, we get on our boat and head to Akala Island. Once there, I do a little bit more story, and after that, I make my way onto Route 4, and I end up catching a Grubbin. I catch him with a single ball and name him Sparks, and since he's not an electric type yet, I can't use him until he is. After I finish all that up, I head to fight my rival in Peniola Town. Immediately I decide to lead with Zeus as he leads with Pikachu. He immediately goes for a quick attack as I go for a Brick Break, doing a lot of damage. Since Brick Break didn't do exactly half, I'm forced to go for a few more, taking out his Pikachu, leading into his final Pokemon, Dartrax. Since I'm a little bit scared of what he can do, I decide to switch into Synergy and try and take him out as fast as possible. On the turn I switched in, he hit me with a Peck, and on the next turn I try and go for an Air Cutter, but miss as he goes for a Razor Leaf, hitting me for not too much damage. I hit 2 Air Cutters in a row, and then he goes for a Z move, Breakneck Blitz. Thankfully, this didn't end up killing Synergy, and I'm able to take him out with 1 more air cutter, winning me my rival battle. After this, I head through Route 5 and get ready for my first battle with Gladion. I lead the battle with Zeus as he leads with Zubat. I seriously thought an Electro Ball would one-shot, but it doesn't, bringing him to 1 HP as he goes for a Bite. I didn't really plan for Electro Ball not one-shotting, so when he sends in his Type Null, I'm a little bit scared. I hit him for a Brick Break, bringing him down a third as he hits me with a Tackle, bringing me to 17 HP. His Zubat hit me for way too much damage, and at this point, I don't really know what to do. I decide to switch into Magnemite, and when I do, I immediately go for a Thunder Shock as he hits me with a Pursuit. He hits me again, bringing me to 11 HP as I paralyze him on the next turn. I was really hoping he would get stopped by paralysis, but sadly he does not, and he's free to get a Pursuit off as I'm trying to switch, making it do double damage, finishing off my Magnemite. I really did expect to lose Magnemite in this run, but I didn't expect to lose him so soon. I end up switching into Zeus and finishing him off with a Brick Break, winning me my battle against Gladion. Really sad to see Tesla go so early, but after this there's only really the Water Trial. And did you really expect a Water Trial to be hard for my electric types? I really hope you didn't, because this battle ended up being a complete sweep. He did bring Zeus pretty low, but other than that, the battle was actually really easy. Once I complete that totem battle, I head down through Route 6 where I'm able to catch my next Pokemon, Eevee. I can't evolve Eevee until I get a Thunderstone, so I'll have to wait until then to evolve it, but for now, I catch it and name him Bolt and find out he has a docile nature. I do a tad bit more story and get ready for my quadruple battle. Once I finish that off with no deaths, I start my grind to get ready for the 3rd trial. Before I started this run, I attempted this part 3 different times, and every single time I lost because my Pokemon were too low of level. I usually try and keep my Pokemon as close to the totem's levels as possible, but for this battle, I really couldn't do that. Since I'm basing my level cap off of Grand Trials anyway, it's not considered cheating, but it's still a little bit cheap, so I promise I will not be doing this regularly. I truly think that this battle would have been impossible otherwise, as I spent about an hour and a half straight just trying to think of a plan to beat this battle without overleveling. I seriously think that this run would have been impossible if I didn't overlevel there, but if you guys end up thinking of a better plan, please leave it in the comments below, because I'm genuinely curious on how I could have done this battle better. With all that being said, I challenge the 3rd totem of this run. I decide to lead the battle with Synergy and go for a workup as she hits me with a Flame Burst. She then calls in her ally, so I go for an Air Cutter, one-shotting her ally and bringing her down a third. She then hits me really hard with a Flame Burst and calls down an ally. I then do the same thing again, going for an Air Cutter, one-shotting the Salandit. Luckily enough, I get a crit with Synergy, and since I got that crit, I bring Salazzle to the red. She then eats her berry, which raises her special attack, and she goes for a Flame Burst, bringing me to 5 HP. She calls down one more ally as I go for another Air Cutter, finishing off the 3rd trial of this run. After that totem, I head to Route 8 and I find myself a Chinchou. This Chinchou has a relaxed nature, which is honestly pretty bad, but I'm forced to catch it, so I do, catching it and naming it Ion. I then make my way to go do the next trial of this run. I go through this awfully weird trial, but I end up getting all the materials I need to fight the totem Lurantis. I decide to lead the battle with Synergy and go for a workup as Lurantis goes for an X-Scissor. She calls down our ally Trumbeak, and honestly I was prepared for a cast form, but that's fine because Trumbeak is probably easier to deal with. I get hit with a Razor Leaf, not doing much damage, and I decide to go for a workup as Trumbeak misses a Supersonic. I've raised my stats enough at this point, and I'm ready to start going for Air Cutters. Lurantis hits me for almost no damage with an X-Scissor as I go for an Air Cutter, almost one-shotting her and Trumbeak. Trumbeak goes for a Supersonic, and thankfully on the next turn, I don't get hit by my own confusion, one-shotting Lurantis and Trumbeak's remaining health. This ends up being my 4th totem battle down out of 7. Synergy actually goes over the level cap in that battle, so for this next grand trial, I'm gonna need some big power in order to win it. Thankfully, I'm getting that pretty soon as I do a lot of story and I make my way through all of Diglett Tunnel, finally making it to the jeweler where I can buy 2 Thunderstones to evolve Eevee and Pikachu. Before fighting my grand trial, I have to deal with Team Skull, and they're all a complete pushover as most of them have poison and flying types, making them weak to Zeus. Thankfully after that, there's nothing else to do, and I challenge Olivia for the grand trial of Akala Island. She leads the battle with Nosepass as I lead with Ion. Immediately I go for 2 Bubble Beams, bringing Nosepass into the red as she hits me with 2 Rock Slides, not doing too much damage. She then decides not to heal in the next turn, and I'm able to finish off Nosepass with another Bubble Beam, leading to her next Pokemon, Boldore. I hit him extremely hard with a Bubble Beam, bringing him into sturdy range as he hits me for not too much damage. I hit another Bubble Beam, finishing off the Boldore, and she sends in her next Pokemon, Lycanroc. She goes for a Continental Crush as I'm fully expecting to lose Ion here, but I actually don't as it brings me to 1 HP and I'm able to use one of my few Z moves in this run to finish off the grand trial of Akala Island. After that grand trial, me and my rival head to the Aether Foundation where I encounter my first Ultra Beast. I beat that Ultra Beast like it was ultra trash, and me and my rival head to Ula Ula Island where immediately we get into a rival battle. He leads the battle with Raichu as I lead with Ion. I immediately go for a Confuse Ray as he tries to hit me with an Electro Ball, but thankfully I have Volt Absorb. On the next turn, he goes for a Psychic as I go for a Bubble Beam, both of us not doing too much damage. He switches into his Vaporeon on the next turn and I don't get any damage off due to him having Water Absorb. We trade attacks and he finally dies to an Electro Ball, leading into his next Pokemon, Dartrax. I decide to switch into Synergy to tank a Doombloom, and after I do that, it's a pretty easy battle as I get off 2 Air Cutters, finishing off the Dartrax. His final Pokemon, Raichu, goes down to 2 Hidden Powers from Zeus, winning me my rival battle. I talk to Professor Kukui after the battle, and I make my way to talk to Professor Oak as well. After all that's finished up, I head to the library with Lily and make my way to the next trial. Before the next trial though, I have some things to do, but they're pretty minimal, so I'll cover them as fast as I can. First things first, I deal with Team Skull outside of the bus stop so I can actually get up to the mountain. Once I'm done with the copious amount of story in this game, I decide to fight Lane, beat him, and I start my battle with Totem Vikavolt. I start the battle with Zeus, and since I'm scared of his bug bite, I decide to switch out immediately with a Volt Switch into Synergy. He summons his Charjabug on the next turn, so I decide to go for a Teeter Dance, confusing both of them, but sadly, they both get through and I'm forced to switch on the next turn. I decide to switch into Bolt, who doesn't take any damage from the Spark, but he does get hit really hard with a Vice Grip. I decide to go for a Hidden Power in the next turn as he hits himself with Confusion and his Charjabug goes for a String Shot, not doing anything. Just because I don't want to risk a crit, I decide to switch out into Ion and he takes 2 hits very easily. Vikavolt actually heals me up with a Spark and I get hit with a Vice Grip, not doing much damage as I go for another Z move, my final of the run, Hydro Vortex. This was a complete waste of my single remaining Z move as I only bring him down to about a third. They both hit me, not doing very much damage as I go for a Confuse Ray on the Vikavolt. I get brought to 14 HP by Vikavolt and Charjabug as I decide to go for a Signal Beam, bringing Vikavolt into the red. I decide to switch into Sparks, and when I do, Vikavolt hits himself with Confusion, and Charjabug hits me with a Vice Grip. Vikavolt goes for a charge on the next turn as I'm able to finish him off with an Acrobatics, and I finish off his Charjabug with 2 more, winning me my 5th Totem battle. After I finish that up, I fight Guzma, destroy him in a battle, and I make my way to the next totem of the run. Before I fight that totem battle, there's still a little bit more I have to do, so I'll talk about it really quickly. I end up getting my next ride pager from Hapu, and after that, I'm actually able to catch my next Pokemon of this run. This Pokemon ends up being an Elekid, which is the best encounter on this route. This Elekid has a gentle nature, and I catch him and name him Thor. On Route 15, I do even more story, and I deal with Team Skull in front of Lily. After this, the only thing left to do is to fight the 6th trial and fight Totem Mimikyu. I decide to lead the battle with Ion and get hit really hard with a Play Rough as I get rid of Mimikyu's disguise with a Bubble Beam. On the next turn, Mimikyu actually misses with Play Rough as I get hit with a Nightshade from Haunter and I switch out with Volt Switch. I decide to switch into Synergy, who gets hit extremely hard by a Play Rough, and I decide to go for a Teeter Dance, confusing the whole team. I then switch into Ion to sack him and get a free switch into Bolt so I can go for a few Shadow Balls. I end up bringing the Mimikyu into a third while taking no damage, and I go for one more Shadow Ball, finishing off the Mimikyu. Haunter could have definitely killed me with a Nightshade there, but thankfully he doesn't as he decides to go for a Hypnosis, so I'm forced to switch out. I decide to switch into Thor, finishing off the Haunter and getting me my 6th totem win of this run. Before I continue this run, I just want to say really quickly that some of my Pokemons will be holding Z Crystals. The reason for this is that I was kind of fluctuating between the rules, not sure if I wanted to do 2 or 3 Z moves, but in the end I decided on 2, so that's why you might see my Pokemon with Z moves. You'll have to take my word for this one, but I promise I did not use Z moves past the 5th trial. After that trial, I move on to Route 17 to fight Guzma and Team Skull. I beat them down pretty quickly, and I end up catching a Haunter in the previous trial site. This Haunter actually has an in-game trade, so I decide to trade him for a Graveler, and when I get Graveler, he evolves into Golem. He's already pre-named Velar, and when I get him, I find out that he has an impish nature, which is actually pretty good. After that, I find out Lily's been basically kidnapped, and Gladion comes in to fight me with his type Null. He doesn't end up killing my Pokemon, but he does get close, and after that battle, I decide to go fight the next grand trial of this run. I decide to lead the battle with Thor as Nanu leads with Sableye. He goes for a Fake Out on the first turn, making me flinch as I go for a Light Screen on the next, and he hits me for almost no damage. I hit him with a Thunder Punch, almost doing half, as he hits me with a Shadow Ball, not doing much. I hit him with another Thunder Punch, bringing him down to the red as he hits me again, not doing much damage. He then decides to switch into Krokorok, so my Thunder Punch is useless. I decide to switch into Synergy, and I go for 2 Air Cutters, finishing off his Krokorok. From there, I decide to switch back into Thor as he paralyzes himself due to my static. I then decide to go for a Light Screen as he heals his paralysis. Not wanting to risk a crit, I decide to switch into Velver, and I go for a Rock Blast, finishing off his Sableye. I decide to switch into Bolt as he hits me with a Fake Out, and since I know I have 1 Light Screen turn left, I decide to go for an actual move and let him hit me with Black Hole Eclipse. Thanks to Light Screen, I live on 53 HP and I decide to paralyze him with a Thunder Wave. I hit him really hard with Discharge, bringing him below half as he hits me for massive damage, bringing me to 10 HP. I'm then able to finish him off with another Discharge, winning me my grand trial of this island. We head to the Aether Foundation next, and I blast through that place, beating Faba not once but twice in a row, and I make my way to the final battles of this place. I'm forced to battle a ton of Team Skull, and when I'm finished with all of them, I make my way to go fight Guzma. Gladion got here before me, so you'd think he'd soften him up a little bit, but you'd be completely wrong, as he has all his Pokemon at full health, and they all can one-shot pretty much all of my Pokemon. The only Pokemon they can't one-shot is Synergy, so I decide to lead with her as he leads with Glycopod. I activate his emergency exit immediately with an Air Cutter as he switches into Ariados. I decide to set up 5 workups against this thing, and after that I go for an Air Slash, one-shotting him in the process. He sends out Glycopod again, who gets finished off by another Air Cutter, leading into his next Pokemon, Masquerade. I decide to go for a Revelation Dance as he hits me for almost no damage, and he gets one-shotted. He then brings out his Pinsir last, who goes down to a single Air Cutter, and this wins me a battle that I thought was going to be a lot harder. I head through this game's pretty awesome cutscene with Lusamine, and after that I end up battling her. I lead the battle with Sparks as she leads with Clefable. She goes for a Cosmic Power as I hit her for about a 4th with a Poison Jab. She hits me pretty hard with a Moonblast on the next turn as I hit her with another Poison Jab, bringing her to about half. She hits me with a Moonblast, bringing me to 1 HP on the next turn as I hit her with a Poison Jab, bringing her to about a 4. Since she's faster than me, it kinda leaves me in a really awkward position, so I decide to switch into Velar. She hits me with a Moonblast on the switch in and the next turn as I hit her with a Rock Blast, finishing her off. She sends out Lilligant next as I decide to switch into Synergy and I get hit with the Teeter Dance. Since she confused me, in order to get it off, I decide to switch into Thor, who takes a Petal Blizzard, and I decide to switch back into Synergy. She tanks a Petal Blizzard really well, and due to my ability, I'm able to hit Lilligant with it on the same turn. She hits me with another Petal Blizzard, bringing me to 21 HP as I'm able to hit her with her own Petal Blizzard and finish her off with an Air Slash. I decide to switch into Velar next, and he gets hit really hard with the Shadow Ball. And now, at this point, I make the decision to sack Velar because I need a clean switch into Bolt. I then nail Miss Maggie with a Bite as she hits me for a little bit of damage with a Power Gem. I then finish her off with a Shadow Ball, and that sacrifice was much needed because she sends in my Milotic next, and if she would have gone for a Hydro Pump, I probably would have survived because of my high HP. I decide to hit her really hard with a Discharge as she hits me for nothing, going for a Safeguard. I'm then able to finish her off with another Discharge, leading into her final Pokemon, Beware. This cute and cuddly beast packs a punch as when I switch into Zeus on the next turn, he hits me extremely hard with a takedown, bringing me to 6 HP. Thankfully, my special attack is high enough with Zeus as I'm able to take him out with a single Psychic, winning me my battle against Lusamine. Looking back on this battle, I probably could have handled it a little bit better, seeing as my Milotic didn't even go for a Hydro Pump, so my sacrifice wasn't needed at all. If I didn't decide to switch though, it would have just been a game of chance, and I'm really not down with playing chance games with Pokemon. After I'm done with that battle, Guzma and Lusamine both go to Ultra Space as I head to Pony Island. On this island, there's actually not much to do, so I do a little bit of story, battle Team Skull, and get ready for what could possibly be the battle that ends this run. Two more things before I start this battle. One, I decide to go back to Blush Mountain on Ula Ula Island and catch a Togedemaru. This is really only a what-if Pokemon that I'll only really use if I have no other choice. I name him Terabyte and find out he actually has a bold nature, which is pretty bad. The second thing I do is evolve Sparks into a Vikavolt in Pony Canyon using one of the rare candies I found throughout this run. With that all being said, I challenge Hapu in what could be my final trial of this run. I decide to lead the battle with Synergy as she leads with Dugtrio. For some reason, the AI in Sun and Moon is really stupid and it likes to spam Sucker Punch a lot. This makes it really easy for me to use setup moves and basically just try and sweep. Dugtrio uses Sandstorm, so I'm kinda stuck taking damage every turn, but that's fine as I set up 5 workups against him. I go for a mirror move, hoping he's going to try and hit me with an Iron Head, but he doesn't, going for a Sandstorm, making my turn useless. On the next turn, I get hit extremely hard with an Iron Head, bringing me to 54 HP. Thankfully, I have a Citrus Berry on me, so I heal after I get hit and go for a not very effective Air Slash, one-shotting the Dugtrio. She brings out her Gastrodon next, and I almost one-shot it with a single Air Slash, bringing it to 1 HP as it flinches in the process. She heals as I'm able to take it out with another Air Slash, leading into her next Pokemon, Flygon. Her Flygon hits me extremely hard with a Dragon Breath, bringing me to 14 HP as I one-shot it with an Air Slash. At this point, I'm fully expecting to go down to the Sandstorm, but I don't, as it ends on the turn I'm supposed to go down to it, and she brings in her final Pokemon, Mudsdale. Thankfully, I end up one-shotting with an Air Slash, losing no Pokemon and winning me my final grand trial of this run. That battle ended up being a lot easier than expected, and after I finished that up, I have only a few important battles remaining before the Elite Four of this run. While I'm making my way through Vast Pony Canyon, I end up fighting a totem battle that I one-shot with a critical hit Psychic from Zeus. After that, me, Lily, and Solgaleo head to Ultra Space. The only thing to do here is to battle Lusamine and her new and improved team. I decide to lead the battle with Terabyte as she leads with Clavable. I go for a Poison Jab, doing over a third, and she hits me with a Moonblast, not doing too much. I then hit another Poison Jab, this one a crit, as I finish off the Clavable. She then brings out Bearware next, and I decide to stick in with Terabyte and go for a Poison Jab. She for some reason doesn't go for the kill with a Hammer Arm, so I'm able to survive another turn as she goes for a Pain Split. For some reason, she just keeps on doing Pain Split, and I'm able to stay in with Terabyte until I finish off the Beware. She sends in her Miss Maggie next, and I decide to switch out. I decide to move into Thor as she goes for a Pain Split again. I go for a Light Screen on the next turn so as not to take too much damage from special attacks. For some reason, she just keeps on going for Pain Split, and I'm able to get off a Thunder Punch on the next turn. She then goes for her first original move, a Shadow Ball, but that does absolutely no damage as I'm able to finish her off with a Thunder Punch. She sends in Lilligant next, and for this, I decide to switch out into Synergy. On the switch in, I get hit with a Petal Dance, and I do damage with her own move. She goes for another Petal Dance as I finish her off with an Air Slash, leading into her final Pokemon, Milotic. I switch into Bolt as I'm pretty sure he can take a Hydro Pump, but he doesn't even have to because she misses. I then bring Milotic to 1 HP with a Thunder as she misses with another Hydro Pump. At this point, it's definitely game as I go for a Discharge, finishing off the Milotic. If you guys have any explanation for why she did so many Pain Splits, please tell me, because that was honestly really weird. She had the kill on Terabyte multiple times and she just didn't go for it for some reason. After that final Lucinian battle, we leave Ultra Space and I'm able to catch the legendary of this game. Sadly, I'm forced to catch it, so there's no real reason to take it out, so I decide to try and give it a good life in the Luxury Ball, but it declined, so I gave it a Cramped Life and a Master Ball. After that, we do a little bit more story and I make my way to Victory Road. Before I actually make it into Victory Road though, I'm challenged by Gladion for the final time in this run. He leads the battle with a Crobat as I lead with Bolt. Bolt immediately one-shots him with a Discharge, but not before getting hit by a Frost Poison. He sends out his Water-type Silvally next, so I go for a Thunder, almost one-shotting him, bringing him to 1 HP and paralyzing him. On that same turn, he gets paralyzed, so on the next, I decide to go for a Discharge, finishing off his Silvally. He brings in Lucario next, so I decide to switch into Synergy. He's doing about a third every time with Aura Sphere, so I go for an Air Slash, bringing him down to about half, as he goes for another Aura Sphere and I get scared and switch. I switch into Zeus as he tanks 2 Aura Spears and I'm able to finish him off with a Psychic, leading into his final Pokemon, Weavile. For this, I decide to switch into Terabyte and he gets hit extremely hard with a Night Slash. Since he did so much damage, immediately when I switch in, I'm forced to switch out again. This time I switch into Thor. He takes massive damage here, and when he does, he activates his static ability, paralyzing the Weavile. After this, I decide to switch into Sparks and I go for a single X-Scissor, finishing off the Weavile, winning me my battle against Gladion. After this, I storm through Victory Road and make my way to the Pokemon League. My rival challenges me one last time before the Elite Four, and it's a sweep on my part. One more thing before I start this Elite Four: if you've made it this far in the video and you're enjoying the content, please consider subscribing. I'm going to try and make it to 6,000 by the end of the year, and it would be greatly appreciated. Thank you for watching, and let's get into this Elite Four. First things first, I decide to get the easiest Elite Four trainer out of the way, so I battle Flying type Master Kahili. This battle was an absolute wipe as I destroyed her in every single aspect. This ends up being one of my fastest Elite Four battles ever, and after I finish off her final Pokemon Toucanon, I win my first Elite Four battle. With that all finished up, that ends up being my final easy battle of this Elite Four, as next I challenge Ghost-type Master Acerola. She leads the battle with Sableye as I lead with Terabyte. She hits me with a Fake Out, flinching me in the process, and I go for a Toxic on the next turn to try and do progressive damage over time. This works out perfectly for me as I'm able to go for a Spiky Shield and then a Zing Zap, finishing off the Sableye. She sends up Palossand next, and since this is exactly what I was expecting, I have a plan. I decide to switch Terabyte into Sparks since she has Levitate and she won't get hit by an Earth Power. Since I taught Sparks Energy Ball, I'm able to hit Palossand for massive damage. Palossand then goes for his Z move, bringing me to 6 HP as I'm able to finish him off with another Energy Ball. She decides to bring up Frostlass next, so I'm forced to switch. I make my switch into Thor as she misses with a Blizzard and I'm able to set up a Light Screen. Since she confused me on the turn I was going for a Light Screen, I decide to go for a Volt Switch and she misses another Blizzard as I get through my confusion, hitting her with a Volt Switch, switching out. I make the easy decision to switch into Bolt and I end up one-shotting the Frostlass with a Shadow Ball. She sends out Delmise next as I go for a Shadow Ball and he misses a Slam and I'm able to take him out on the next turn with another Shadow Ball. She sends out Drifloon last and I'm easily able to take it out with a Shadow Ball and Discharge combo, winning me my second Elite Four battle. Next up, I decide to challenge Rock-type Elite Four member Olivia. She leads the battle with Relicanth as I lead with Terabyte. I go for a Zing Zap on the first turn, doing a ton of damage as she goes for a Yawn. I use one more Zing Zap on the next turn, finishing off her Pokemon, falling asleep, and then waking up due to my Chesto Berry. She then sends out her Probopass next, and this is where things can get scary. He goes for a Sandstorm on the first turn, as I think that he's going to go for an Earth Power, so I Spiky Shield it. I was definitely wrong about this though, so I'm forced to switch on the next turn into Sparks. I don't get hit due to Levitate, and I hit for almost no damage with an Energy Ball on the next turn, as he hits me for massive damage with a Power Gem. Sadly, this does force me to switch again, so I decide to switch into Thor, and he hits me really hard with a Power Gem right when I do. I decide to go for a Focus Blast, and it doesn't kill this tanky monster, as he hits me with another Power Gem, and it does even more damage this time, bringing me into the yellow. I go for one more Focus Blast, finally ending the Probopass. She sends in Lycanroc next, and I decide I'm gonna need to sack Thor in this battle. Before I end up sacking him, he hits Lycanroc for massive damage with a Focus Blast, but sadly, he goes out on the next turn due to a Rock Climb. I decide to switch into Zeus and go for a Psychic, finishing off the Lycanroc. She then sends out her next Pokemon Golem, who I take out with 2 Psychics, but he does bring me to 59 HP in the process. She then brings in her Carbink, so I decide to switch into Terabyte. I beat Carbink pretty easily with a combination of Toxic and Zing Zap, winning me my 3rd Elite Four battle. Finally, I challenge what should be the hardest battle of this Elite Four, Hala and his fighting types. I decide to lead the battle with Synergy, as he leads with Hariyama. Immediately I go for a Protect, protecting me from the Fake Out, and on the next turn I go for a Calm Mind and get hit super hard with a close combat. I go for a Protect just to get back a little bit of HP, and I finish off the Hariyama with a single Air Slash. His next Pokemon, Crabrawler, could have been a massive issue if I didn't up my special attack. I decide to Protect on the first turn just to get back a little bit of HP, and then I'm able to one-shot with an Air Slash. His Primape's next, and again I use Protect to gain a little bit of HP. This then goes a little bit differently, as I get hit for massive damage with a Punishment, and I'm able to one-shot him with an Air Slash. At this point, I'm not at enough health to survive another attack, so I'm forced to switch. I switch into Zeus, who gets hit for massive damage, so I decide to go for a Volt Switch to switch out into another Pokemon on the next turn. I switch into Bolt, and he tanks a Waterfall to the chest, as I'm able to go for a Discharge on the next turn, killing the Poliwrath. He sends out his next Pokemon, Beware, next, and this forces me to switch. I decide to move into Vikavolt, who doesn't take really any damage from his Hammer Arm, and on the next turn I go for a Thunderbolt, doing massive damage to him. He then hits me with a Hammer Arm, bringing me to 42 HP, as I'm able to finish him off on the next turn with a Thunderbolt, winning me my 4th and final Elite Four battle. With that all being said, I set up my final movesets and my final team to get ready to challenge Pokemon Sun's champion with only electric types. I decided to lead the battle with Sparks, as he leads with Lycanroc. Before the battle started, I gave Sparks a Charity Berry so as not to die from a Stone Edge. For whatever reason, Lycanroc decides not even to go for a Stone Edge, and he goes for a Stealth Rock, as I'm able to one-shot with an Energy Ball. His next Pokemon, Braviary, could have caused a whole lot of havoc, but he decides to go for a Tailwind, and he gets hit for almost all of his health with a Thunderbolt. Kukui then decides to heal him up on the next turn, but his fate is already sealed, as I finish him off with another Thunderbolt and a Volt Switch. For the switch, I decide to move into Zeus, as he brings out his Snorlax. I decide to stay in with Zeus and go for a Brick Break, even though he has high horsepower, because before the battle started, I gave him a Shaka Berry. I stay in for another turn, bringing him below half with a Brick Break, as he finishes off Zeus with a high horsepower. I decide to switch into Sparks, hoping he can one-shot his remaining health with a Thunderbolt, and he cannot, bringing him into the red as he gets hit, bringing him to 62 health. He then heals on the next turn, and I don't do enough damage with my 2 Thunderbolts, so he takes out Sparks with a Body Slam. I then switch into Synergy next and go for a Protect to try and gain the health back that I lost due to Stealth Rock. I was hoping to do a fair bit of damage with Revelation Dance, but I don't, doing barely anything as he hits me for massive damage with a Body Slam. I go for Protect one last time to try and survive another Body Slam, and I go for a Revelation Dance on the next turn. It doesn't do a lot of damage, but it doesn't really matter as I live another Body Slam. I go for one more Protect, hoping for a miracle, but I don't get it. As I go for a Revelation Dance, it doesn't do much, and I die to another Body Slam. Synergy did a ton of damage to Snorlax over time, and I'm able to switch into Terabyte and do one Poison Jab, finishing off the Snorlax. He brings in Primarina next, and I predict his Z-move, going for a Spiky Shield, so it doesn't even do that much damage. I'm faster than Primarina, so on the next turn, I go for a Zing Zap, flinching her in the process. I go for a Spiky Shield to gain a little bit of HP through leftovers, and I finish off the Primarina with a Poison Jab. He decides to send in Ninetales next, and I'm able to finish her off really quickly with a few Poison Jabs. The Ninetales brings me down to 76 HP as he brings in his final Pokemon, Magnezone. Immediately I look to play the waiting game, going for a Spiky Shield to regenerate some health. After that, I swap between Zing Zap and Spiky Shield to just do a little bit of damage and heal in the process. Eventually he whittles me down to 48 HP, and at this point I've run out of Zing Zap PP and Spiky Shield PP. I can't go for a Volt Switch here because I have to save Bolt's health, so I'm forced to sacrifice Terabyte. I then switch into Bolt and have two choices. I can either go with a Shadow Ball or a Bite here, and since I'm looking to keep him out of full restore range, I can't do too much damage. The wrong combination of these moves could very easily end my run, so I decide to go for a Shadow Ball. It brings him just outside of full restore range, and I'm able to finish him off in the next turn with a Shadow Ball, winning me my final battle of this run. That was so difficult, man. I'm so happy, dude. I am so happy that that just happened. First ever champion, man. Gosh, that run was so difficult, man. It was so difficult. I'm so happy I got that done. And with that, that's the end of my run. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video because I worked really hard to get it out. And if you did enjoy, please consider subscribing. It would be greatly appreciated. Thanks again to everybody. And with that being said, that was my attempt at a Pokemon Sun Hardcore Nuzlocke, electric types only.